Hold on a moment. Sorry, having a little technical difficulties. Sorry about that.
Now can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Awesome, thank you. So I want you to know that we know that you can't respond right now because of the Brown Act, but I'm a resident at Oyster Cove Marina, and we wanted to put this on your radar for any ideas or thoughts for how you might be able to be part of the overall solution for what is happening with our evictions, and possibly discuss options with the BCDC and or elected officials. We've already communicated with our elected officials via email and during public comments, as well as met with city manager, South San Francisco city manager and council members of the city of South San Francisco. And we've communicated via email and public comments also to BCDC, as well as communicated via email to Supervisor David Pine as well. And first and foremost, we have communicated with the developer owner, Kilroy Realty. Sorry, I've got construction going on my boat, not construction, but sanding and picking. Sorry about the noise. But we've been talking to the developer, Kilroy, to please ask for to consider some slips to leave them for residents to help us with more time and financial compensation and assistance in finding living board slips for our displaced residents. We've met once with their management group, Tideline, as well as sent them multiple emails and letters since they sent us the notice of evict on June 15th. Kilroy has yet to respond. The mission of BCDC was created through the McAteer-Pinterest Act as an anti-fill legislation, and the Bay Plan followed. And given that the Bay Plan was created for the above, and because recreational liveaboard boats often are one and the same, have historically been, but should not be considered fill, we ask that you to please consider working with BCDC to increase the percentage of allowable liveaboards on the peninsula. Thank you.
Next in line is John Ullum.
Thank you, President Waring. Sorry to hear about the evictions going on up at Oyster Point Marina. I'm surely hoping that the Harbor District will do whatever it can to help those people out. That should not be put in any kind of risk of losing their homes so that somebody can build $1 billion campus. Before I go further, I would like to... Wow. Anyways, before I go further, I'd like to make sure that you pull items 5 and 6 from your consent calendar. And then just give the Harbor District the good news that property tax revenue is at a record high for the 12th year in a row. And as that's where most of your revenue comes from, that should be good news. And it should also give you all pause to ask yourself how it is you've had 12 years of record revenue growth, and both Harbor and the Marina are no better than, frankly, half-assed operations. I know that the staff works really hard to keep it all together, and they do a wonderful job considering what you've given them to work with. But there's a reason why both operations are not world-class. You can't afford to run 2 world-class operations. You get your act together and spend your money on the harbor as you're supposed to, you will have a world-class facility that everybody in this county will be proud of, and everybody in this county will want to visit. And that should be your goal. You should be looking at the possibility of ending your relationship with the city for Oyster Point as an opportunity. Thank you.
Allison Madden, you are next.
Great. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good day, commissioners. I hope you're having a good day. I want to let you know that I'm speaking on behalf of the Oyster Cove Marina slip holders. I sent a letter to the clerk today, and it is the letter that we sent to Kilroy, and it has attached to it the communication we had with Tideline, and that's the operation that is currently taking over to manage the marina at Oyster Cove Marina. So I think we sent some of that to you before, but the Kilroy letter I sent today. There's also an article in Latitude 38 right now. It's on the electric latitude, which is just online. And I hope that it shows up in the print copy when it comes out next, but I will also send that link for that article. I wanted to mention that right now the slip holders are not talking about any litigation. This is all advocacy. You know, when Kilroy took over the upland and the marina in 2018, there were assurances made to the slip holders that nothing would change. And then they were very much surprised on June 16th and only given 2 weeks to sign a letter that says you're agreeing now to be evicted in the fall. And it takes time to work all this out. Lucia spoke, and all of the proper communications are underway with all the elected and appointed officials. And it just takes time for even all the good, well-managed bureaucracy to talk to each other and to meet once or twice a month. And I wanted to say that there is a precedent for increasing the percentage of liveaboard, and that was worked out in Marin to account for moving the anchor outs into marinas. And also down here, Mark Sanders, who runs the Top Flight West Point Marina, has been advocating for this for years to increase the percentage of liveaboards. They serve many purposes. They safety and security. They're a bridge between land and water. They're a knowledgeable resource. And they're really just, there's a vet here who's been living here for 2 decades, and he has physical issues. So we really want to make sure he finds a place and is not losing his home. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Matt Klein.
Hello, I'm about to start my meter. Here we go. Yes, I'm also a resident of Oyster Cove Marina, and I understand, and they've hit pretty much both those other points, Lucia and Allison. The notice being given was quite a surprise, and we also have not really been given enough time to relocate. Some of our people have actually gotten slips and have been on the waiting list over at Oyster Point. And there's a lot of really good work done over at Oyster Point. It's just wonderful. The fact is, we're going to be displaced. Many of our elder people are going to be displaced. And this has to be resolved. So I just like to plead with you to understand that. And I don't know if Pillar Point is accepting liveaboards, but the situation over at Oyster Point, really I'd like you to understand that, placing people there with their vessels able to continue as we have, that would just be of great assistance. Also, they claim that they don't know what they're going to do with the marina here, Oyster Cove and Kilroy. I'd like to suggest that you consider taking over management of Oyster Cove Marina. It's just a fantastic marina. It's a gem. It's a jewel. And it would, it really does serve the public in South San Francisco and over the whole bay. It's wonderful. So that's my time. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Gail Schulke.
Okay, this is Gail Schulke. I'm assuming you can hear me. I'm also a resident at Oyster Cove Marina. My husband and I are both retirees. We've been here for over 20 years. I'd like to point out a couple of things that weren't said. First of all, the people that are getting slips are not getting liveaboard slips. They're having to come up with another plan for how they're going to survive until they are granted liveaboard status. So that's very important for you to know. The second one is we've been at Pillar Point. They are not accepting liveaboards at this time. They have a list. We're on that list. My suggestion is that you and the BCDC just transfer our liveaboard status over to one of the public marinas and just give us a place to live. If there's 12 legitimate liveaboards, which would solve that problem, there's also quite a few that live on their boats and really are not legitimate liveaboards. But at least it would solve the problem for those of us who were legal liveaboards, that you could just transfer us over to Oyster Point. Plain and simple. There's only 12 of us. It's not a huge number. That would solve my problem and those of the other people that are living aboard and having to transfer their slips. So just one suggestion. The other one is I want to also put in a word for those people who are on very limited incomes. There's disabled people here who are have very little money. And to transfer your slip from one to another oftentimes involves a haul out, a new survey, changing of your insurance, all kinds of little goodies. And it's very expensive. And trust me, the money that they're offering us liveaboards to do all this won't cover it. I know that for a fact, so because we've already priced it out. Anyway, that's all that I had to say, but I'd like you to consider just transferring their status over to Oyster Point or Pillar Point.
Melissa McGurk.
Good afternoon. Hello. Yes, thank you. Hopefully you can hear me. My name is Melissa McGurk, and I have applied to lease the available space in the Harbor Vista building in El Granada. And I realize that my item on the agenda today is in the closed section, but I was just hoping I could take this opportunity to introduce myself, if that's okay. I've been a hairstylist for over 30 years, and I've spent the last 15 years building my business in Half Moon Bay. And I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to move my business into your available space. My husband and I have lived on the coast for over 20 years, and we've been fortunate enough to raise our 2 children here who are both students at Half Moon Bay High School. We've also owned successful businesses, a restaurant on Main Street and currently a brewery in Pillar Point Harbor. It's really important for us to give back to the community. This past weekend, my husband, Tom McGurk of Cowboy Fishing Company, and myself, we held our 3rd annual fishing derby where we raised over $10,000 for this year's beneficiary, the American Legion of the Coastside. And again, I just wanted to say hello, to give you more context to who I am and to let you know how much I'm looking forward to the opportunity to continue our commitment to having successful businesses on the coastside, as well as giving back if I should be so fortunate. So again, my name is Melissa McGurk, and I'll be here on the call in case you have any questions later on. Thank you so much for your time.
Isabel, you are next.
Thank you. I'm also a resident of Oyster Cove Marina, and I am disabled. I'm on very low fixed income. I wanted to add to what I heard the other residents say, that I was one of the people, I moved there 16 years ago, who came in with a liveaboard and was basically forced into changing that into extended stay, not knowing that that would have consequences with, what's been happening recently, that the liveaboard status is the only one that's taken as official. And I'm not the only one. The veteran that was mentioned, who's lived there for over 20 years, was actually threatened that he would be forced to leave if he didn't sign it. The threats in my case were not as overt, but it was still implied. So the people who lost, like him and I and others who lost this quote unquote liveaboard status, were still full-time residents and came in as liveaboards. So the number that Kilroy has been giving with 14 is because over the years, more and more of us liveaboards have been coerced into giving up our status, not knowing the consequences. So the number of 14 is way below the actual number. And in 2020, when they had managed to get it under the 10% that is even allowed, the harbor master at the time tried getting some extended stays back on liveaboard status and was not allowed to. So this has been in the works for a long time. And I would like to ask for you to consider not just the people who were lucky enough to keep their liveaboards, but all the people who actually lived there legitimately. Thank you.
All right, that's all of the public comments that I see. So we're going to move to the consent calendars. Do any commissioners have items they would like to pull from today's consent calendar? Or do I have a motion to approve?
I'd like to pull number 2, please.
Pull number 6.
Pulling number 2, number 6. And I'm going to put those at the end of the regular agenda, discussion items.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar as is. So it'd be 1, 3, 4, 5. Hold on, I'm trying to pull it. 7, whatever. I'm trying to pull up my, 7.
7 and 8.
And
Thank you,
8, yeah.
Jane Crawley. Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Zemke. Do we have any public comment on the consent calendar? I see John Ullum's hand raised.
Actually, Nancy, it's only up to 7. 8 is a discussion item.
Is it?
Yeah, so it's 1, 3, 4, 5, and 7.
Why is 8 a discussion item? I see it under consent.
Nope, 8 is
Commercial activity permit for Crabs Ahoy Charter.
no, item 8
Oh, I'm so sorry. No, I'm sorry. I have the wrong agenda. I'm sorry.
No problem. So it's just, it's 1, 3, 4, 5.
Yep, 6, 7. You have it right. And Commissioner Zemke seconded that, and we have a public comment by John Ullum.
Thank you, President Rearing. I'm surprised, but I think you missed it. Oops. Okay. Thank you, President Rearing. I think you missed it. I asked you to pull off items 5 and 6 during public comment. In the past, you have not recognized my raising of hands when it came to the consent agenda. And so that's why people ask, that's why I do that during public comments, because you can't blow me off that way. So please pull item number 5. Thank you.
All right, Melanie, roll call on this item, please.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Mateusz,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Karali,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
I am abstaining because I was not at the meeting.
President Reiering.
Aye. All right, so now we're going to move on to discussion items. First item is discussion item number 8, bonus for district employees. And Julie, this is your item.
I see it has my name on the agenda. Is that something you want to do, Jim, or I'd be happy to present it? You're on mute.
I can present item number 8. Good afternoon, commissioners, members of the public. This kind of grew out of what I witnessed of certain staff members taking on additional duties when we have shortages in certain positions, and those employees took over those positions and actually fulfilled both positions at the same time. And they continue to do that on a case-by-case basis. And every one of our employees has and continues to do that to make sure we complete the job that we're required to complete. This is a recommendation for a bonus of $2,000, to consider a $2,000 one-time bonus for district employees who have shown a commitment to the district by agreeing to take on additional responsibilities during the enterprise resource planning system and or to cover positions that have been temporarily vacant due to leaves, COVID-19 and others, and resignations. Really, the original story was the board secretary volunteering to take over Pillow Point Harbor's admin office while still maintaining all her responsibilities at the district office. And she did that for several weeks and continues to assist the new employee which has been hired down there at Pillar Point. And she continues to demonstrate a willingness to meet those challenges. And every one of our employees have done that. The bonus that is being suggested goes to all employees of the district with the exception of the general manager and 4 new employees. The cost to cover the bonuses would come from money already budgeted for positions when those positions become vacant or unfilled. And we currently are, we have eliminated 1 position, and we have also elected at the staff level not to hire up to a position until next year, saving money there. The opposite side of this bonus is where we did do, and I realize we just raised our rents for all our slip holders and for our leasees to ensure that we have enough money to operate. And we also raised all the miscellaneous costs for the district and for the public utilizing the harbor when it's required. So, and we need that money to operate. This $70,000 is also critical to the budget, but again, it's budgeted to an empty position and other positions that will be vacant throughout the year. So it would come from salary money that we've already budgeted. It will be a one-time bonus, discretionary, and not reportable as income for the purposes of CalPERS retirement. And the contracts for OE3 and the Teamsters are valid through June 30th, 2023. We don't wish to open up those contracts at this time, so that's why we're recommending a discretionary bonus of $2,000. And again, the total cost is not to exceed $70,000. Other communities in the area have done this. They've given more than $2,000, and they've given less than $2,000. We're reckoning both operational and admin staff on this one. Operational staff has already received over the last couple of years $4,000 in bonuses related to their willingness to work and perform during COVID when others worked from home. And Steny, unless there's any questions, that's my report on the bonus.
Thank you, Jim. Commissioners, this is our opportunity to discuss this item.
Let's see, how do I do this? I'm trying to raise my hand.
Oh, well, then Commissioner Matoush, I see you.
I'm in favor of this, particularly in these inflationary times. I want to take care of our employees, workers, everybody at the Harbor District. And I think this, particularly in the tough times that are going on in our country now, it'd be a great way to recognize everybody that works in the harbor.
Thank you. Commissioner Chen Crawley, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, so I understand where General Manager Pruitt is coming from, but I have a very hard time supporting this, mainly because we just gave a $4,000 bonus to all of the employees 2 years ago, and we are less than a year away from opening up the contract for REACH to negotiate again. And while I understand that no one wants to open this up earlier, maybe we should look at this so that we have a holistic approach for our staffing needs and also our compensation capabilities and capacities. I am concerned about this because we are now asking the public to pay more for salaries for jobs that should be done. This does not mean that this does not mean that I don't appreciate what staff has done, but right now people are having hard times with their own affordability of goods. Gas prices seem to be stabilizing a little. But the cost of goods is going up, and we're asking them to pay for increases for employees while they're, not able to maybe necessarily meet their needs. That's not to say that we shouldn't look at this at the upcoming contract negotiations in 2023, but I have a hard time supporting this at this time, this item.
Thank you. Any other commissioners' thoughts?
Yes, this is Commissioner Semke. It's not a huge amount of money, and I guess I recognize how busy things have been with all of the work that the admin staff and also the harbor staff have been doing. So I am in favor of this.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yes, I'd like to comment, please. I'll take my hand down. I agree with.
See that.
I agree with Commissioner Matoush and Zemke. Just as an example, our staff working on the weekend when salmon fishing was open, or was it 4th of July, I guess it was, we had a record number of boats being launched at the harbor. If any one of you had been down there, you'd seen it was a controlled pandemonium, you might call it. There were cars lined up on Highway 1. Our staff works really hard, and the amount of money that we're talking about is nothing compared to the money that the district has wasted on things like Oyster Point Marina. So I think we should reward our staff for working hard and making things better for the public and making it, frankly, easier for us. So I'm completely in favor of this.
We have a member of the public who would like to speak, John Ullum.
I believe Commissioner Corrali really kind of nailed it on the head. That she's got a real good point that a lot of us are being asked to make sacrifices. A lot of us are working multiple positions, doing anything we can to keep our companies going, our employers happy, whatever it takes to get through this crisis. I know that we had to downsize. It's one of my clients. They downsized, moved their office, and the management was hauling boxes. The IT guy, that's me, was hauling boxes. We have done some painting in the new office. We're working our butts off, and there ain't none of us going to get nothing except a good free Indian buffet next Friday. They'll bring it over here. So, yeah, I agree that staff has worked really hard. I think that they, you see the amazing way that they're able to patch things together for an operation that has been funded so poorly for the last 50 years. They are working miracles out there. But now is not the time to be asking for more money like this. People are angry, people are hurting, and most of us simply do not work at places that have the extraordinary amount of revenue that the Harbor District has. So I'd like you to consider that. Also, there was no confirmation. I asked twice, was item 5 pulled from the consent calendar? Thank you.
Nancy, you're on mute.
Thank you. Tricia, I would like you to please speak to Ms. Strollum's query about members of the public pulling consent items, if you could.
Sure. So the agenda provides that any member of any commissioner may request an item to be pulled from the consent. It's not the public that pulls things from the consent. However, any member of the public is able to give public comment during that public comment period prior to adopting the consent calendar, which is, I think, what happened. So I did not understand the motion to include Mr. Ullum's request. It was only to approve the consent calendar minus items 2 and 6.
Correct. Thank you. All right, we've discussed this item a little bit and heard from the public. Do I have a motion for discussion item number 8?
Motion to approve.
I will second that.
Great. Roll call, Melanie.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang-Crowley,
Nay.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
President Reiering,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke.
Aye.
The motion carries. And we'll move on to discussion item number 9, Surfers Beach Restoration Pilot Project, eelgrass mitigation update, and consideration of contract for services. Mr. John Moran, this is your item.
Good afternoon, commissioners, members of the public. This is a motion to receive an update presentation from consultant Brad Damitz on the Pillar Point Harbor Surface Beach Pilot Restoration and Eelgrass Mitigation Project, and approve an agreement for continued project management, environmental review, permitting, and bid process support to complete the planning phase of the project in preparation for construction planned for 2023. And that proposal for not to exceed amount of an additional $57,000. I believe we've got Brad Damitz that would like to share screen at this time and provide a PowerPoint presentation.
That's right. Let me get. Hello, everybody. Let's see.
Can you share your screen, Brad, or am I going to have? Okay, good.
Working on it. Okay. Can you see me? I mean the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, John. Good to see everybody. Thanks for inviting me to give a presentation today. I'm going to just kind of hit on some quick history here and some backgrounds on the project in 20 minutes. And it's not going to do it justice. There's a lot of details in the project here, but I just kind of want to get everybody up to speed, give you an update. And then, maybe we can get back to Q&A if anybody has questions. But at some point, I would like to do a more detailed, maybe a public forum at some point where we can present the project in more detail. So with that, let me get started here. Okay. So I always like to show this slide real quick just to kind of orient everybody to the project and what it is. This is the aerial view of the harbor, obviously. The proposed Surfers Beach pilot restoration project would involve dredging of 75,000 up to 100,000 cubic yards of clean sand from inside the east breakwater here in the east basin of the harbor, and then placing that sand over here along about 1,000-foot stretch of highly eroded Surfers Beach area. So just real quickly, when the breakwaters were constructed, ending in 1961, what happened was that their construction, their existence kind of changed the wave climate and the sediment transport patterns in such a way that caused sediment inside the harbor to accrete and cause shoaling inside the harbor. And then just directly adjacent, we had it severely increase erosion rates. So that's just kind of the quick overview. The project details. So the proposed project will create 4.1 acres of beach habitat on Surfers Beach. We'll get into that in a little bit. I'll show you some engineering plans and everything. And then as part of the project requirements, 3.9 acres of eelgrass habitat. It's a pilot project. We're going to be monitoring it extensively, physically, looking at where the sand goes and what happens over time, as well as any biological monitoring impacts to be able to kind of determine, ultimately the goal is to have an ongoing kind of sediment management program where we could do larger future versions of this, where we take this clean sand that would have been on the beach anyway, that's now kind of shoaling up the harbor. So cost estimates from our engineers at ESA recently, maybe about a year ago, has the project cost at 2.9 to 3.6 million. And that depends on whether it's 75,000 cubic yards or 100,000 cubic yards. And then the eelgrass restoration is a fairly huge project on its own at a cost of $1.8 million. So the two main issues that this project is going to address are, number one, severe erosion, as I mentioned, just outside of the harbor, so that the outer breakwaters have interfered with the sediment transport, and the sand that would have ended up on Surfers Beach and then worked its way down the coast ultimately gets trapped inside the harbor, and we're trying to address that. You can see along this stretch of coast, as everybody knows, it's been eroding for years. Caltrans has been protecting the highway, otherwise it wouldn't even be there anymore. And if we continue this way, that rock will just keep spreading and spreading and spreading. And this is an attempt to address that using sand from inside the harbor as kind of a win-win situation. This is a recent photo sent by some Harbor Patrol members. This is recent damage from May 2022. So it's an ongoing issue, as I've mentioned, and it's a huge headache for Caltrans as well. They're going to definitely be a beneficiary of this project. This is some modeling that was done by the Army Corps of Engineers. It's almost 10 years old already. You can see the thin red stripe is the projected 10-year erosion zone. Obviously, this isn't happening over here because the highway's been protected already. But the yellow part shows the 50-year erosion zone. So right now, that would be about 40 years. And I just show that to kind of give you something tangible to see how much erosion we're talking about. The Army Corps determined in their study that it was about 7 times the rate of a reference beach down the coast that has similar kind of geomorphology. So they attributed this high erosion rate to the construction of the existence of those outer breakwaters. The other issue that the project's going to address is the shoaling inside the harbor. Now, this is an extreme photo right here. This shows a minus maybe 1.3 tide or something like that about a year and a half ago. You can see here this sailboat is tipping over because it's not even floating in the water. These issues, if nothing's done about this shoaling is going to continue, and I can show you some diagrams in the next slide or two to kind of hit that home. But some of the implications are that the boat launch ramp, as everybody knows, every 5 to 8 years need to be dredged because of this shoaling. So the pilot project will also take care of the boat launch ramp dredging needs, but also eliminate the need for, or actually improve navigation and allow the harbor to do what it is supposed to do, which is provide a safe harbor and anchorage for boats. So this is just something real quickly that demonstrates what's been happening inside the harbor. California Department of Fish and Wildlife had some questions about whether or not dredging was even necessary in the harbor. So we had to get our engineers, Bob Battaglio and Louis White from ESA, to kind of analyze it. We did a full harbor bathymetry with the exception of the inner basin there inside the inner breakwaters, and compared those results to the two previous ones that were done in 2005 and can't remember the other one, but what we see since 2005 is there's been some erosion. I guess this is a good thing. At the entrance of the harbor, there's been a deepening of somewhere on the magnitude of 8 to 10 feet. But along the outer breakwaters, there's been significant shoaling. The east breakwater here, they're showing between 6,000 and 9,000 cubic yards every year are accumulating. And that's about 10 feet deep of clean sand that's just kind of moving its way deep, farther and farther into the harbor. So here's a cross section that shows you what we're talking about. This over here on this side shows where the breakwater is. So imagine if you're kind of looking down and then there's that shoal over here. And on the other side, on your right-hand side is Surfers Beach. So this is 1994. We've got this 10 feet of sand, and then 2006 is moving its way out, and then 2019 is continuing. So if no dredging is done, we can assume that this is just going to keep on moving its way out and out and out, interfering with that navigation. And other issue that's causing is eelgrass is starting to grow there. And eelgrass was never in the harbor in the past, but now the bathymetry is at the right level for it to start growing, and that expansion will continue. And as part of this project, that's why we're doing the eelgrass mitigation. We're mitigating for all of that. We're proposing to mitigate for all of that eelgrass that's in the East Basin, so that in the future, additional maintenance dredging can occur beyond just this project without needing to do more mitigation. So here's just a quick picture of the eelgrass survey that was done. This one was done in 2019, end of 2019. The whole harbor was surveyed, and these were the patches of eelgrass, mostly along the east breakwater, but then there was another one over here along the west breakwater. So because of that, obviously eelgrass is an important habitat and highly regulated habitat. So the agencies that issue the permits require that we come up with a eelgrass mitigation project as well. And we hired a company called Marine Taxonomic Services out of San Diego for eelgrass mitigation experts. And they developed a concept of how to do this mitigation project. This here shows the engineering, the 30% plans done by ESA. And I'll explain it to you because it's a little bit complicated. You can see the green stuff in the middle. Obviously, that's the existing eelgrass in 2019. So what we're proposing to do is this area, the shallow area with the red hatches or whatever you call those lines, that area would need to be deepened a bit for the eelgrass because right now it's too shallow for the eelgrass to grow. And then this area over here would be filled in because it's too deep for eelgrass to grow. So the result would be like a long continuous platform that kind of gradually gets deeper and deeper and would be, the optimal depth. They determined these, the water levels and all this stuff based on where the eelgrass was growing. And they did a biological analysis to determine that this was, the best place to put it as well. The nice thing about this area is it's not an acreage area. It's not an area that gets a lot of human use, boats, tearing it up, people clamming and stuff. So it kind of puts it in a more protected area of the harbor. It's more appropriate for eelgrass. So the Surfers Beach project involves dredging of sand and then placing that sand on Surfers Beach. But some of that sand, going back to this slide here, would be needed to fill in this deeper area. And it's only 6,000 or 7,000 cubic yards, something like that. So we have our dredging areas divided into 6 different sections. Part partially at the boat launch ramps, and then mainly along this east breakwater where the biggest shoal is. What we're going to do with this area here where there's existing eelgrass is leave that in place as a reference bed, so that when we're evaluating the performance of the eelgrass mitigation and whether or not it's healthy and coming back, we can compare that to another area in the harbor. So if this one is dying over here, then we know that there's something else that's causing issues. So we're proposing to do a phased approach where we first take sand from in front of the boat launch ramps here that's a little bit more silty, and then dredge that, and then bring it over to the eelgrass mitigation area and to build out that deeper area platform. Once that's done, give it a couple of weeks or a month to kind of settle in place. And then what they would do is we'd have some biologists that would be contracted out to harvest some of this eelgrass, bundle it up, and then transplant it into that other area. There's a whole mitigation plan that's available on the website that includes the details on how that would be done. So I won't get too much into it now, but so that would be the first step. And then once that eelgrass has been transplanted, then we come in here and start dredging this area here and then moving it over to Surfers Beach. A couple more details here. The pipeline, this would be done with a slurry mixture. So we would pump a mixture of sand and water hydraulically through a pipeline over to Surfers Beach. And I'll show you that plan in just a second. But the pipeline alignment would go like this. You can see these lines. So we have it done in such a way where it would cause minimal interference with public access. We can kind of keep it running along the outer breakwater. And then once we get to the, Surfers Beach area, we could pull it up right up against where the rock revetment is. So the coastal pathway would still be open, the recreational trail, and wouldn't have to be closed as we do this work. There might be some temporary closures where the people with flags move the heavy equipment over there. But so that's the proposed dredging plans from our permitting level plans. These are some sections showing like the side thing. So here's the East Breakwater revetment here, and these red lines here show the area that would be dredged. So that's all existing sand, that 10-foot high shoal of clean sand that we were talking about before. That would be dredged down 6 to 8 feet all the way out, and consistent with the plans you saw before. This is what it would look like from the side angle. And then this is along the boat launch ramps here. So you can kind of see what we'd be taking. Here is the beach nourishment design component of the project. So, the dredge pipeline would kind of come along here, and the proposal is to start over here on the southern end of the project. We would build out with existing sand on the beach, build out what's called a containment berm, maybe 6 to 8 feet high. You can see down here, it kind of shows an image depicting that, and then pump sand inside that. And the good thing about this approach is that contains the sand, so you don't lose a lot of it to go out into the system and work its way out the coast. It'll build up a big berm. The other benefit of that is you don't have turbidity issues with all that sediment moving its way out and potentially causing impacts. So we would move our way from this end, kind of fill it in as we're going with these containment berms, and just kind of keep going over and over and over, ending at the East Breakwater, the root of the East Breakwater here. This area shown in yellow here is the initial placement. So it would be a big berm that's designed to kind of get worked at by the waves and settle down. This other dotted line on the outside shows the equilibrated kind of final outcome after a few weeks once the waves get to it. And here's a side view here. This is the Caltrans revetment here. You can kind of see this is the just an image of the containment berm, just to kind of show what the concept is like. And we just keep on filling it in. And then this little line here shows after it's kind of reaches equilibrium. This is photo from Southern California, just to give you kind of something tangible to be able to see what we're talking about. Ours is a little bit different proposed method. This one, they're using a long pipeline with different manifold outfalls, so they're kind of pumping the sediment out. Ours would be like one end and then probably pumped out, but you can kind of see how all this stuff, all the water ends up within here, creates a pool, and then percolates into the sand instead of getting washed out into the ocean. That's the concept that we're looking at. The status of the project right now, we've got our 30% engineering design and reports. That's permitting level design, which has allowed us to submit the permit applications in the early spring, late winter. We've completed a draft CEQA document. It's an initial study, mitigated negative declaration. It's available on the Harbor District website. It hasn't been filed yet. We were waiting for an approval from the city of Half Moon Bay, but within the next 2 weeks to a month, I think that's going to be filed with the county clerk's office and the state clearinghouse, which will start a 30-day public comment period. Our plan, if permits can be available and funding is worked out, we are proposing to begin a phased construction approach, ideally using one contractor, so you avoid multiple mobilization fees. One contractor, that is, to do both the eelgrass, build up the eelgrass mitigation platform with the exclusion of actually planting the eelgrass, and also do the dredging and the beach nourishment components of the project sometime in late spring, summer of next year. We've been actively seeking grant funding. It's been a bit discouraging. We've applied for over 10 grants. We have received 2 grants. We've had some luck. We've worked with partners to get some grant funding, actually through Greater Farallones Association, to help out with some of the monitoring costs, which is going to be a help. And we're still applying for grants. We've got another one due at the end of this month. And just kind of keep on pushing forward and hoping that we can get some additional funding, because there is a lot of unprecedented amount of state and federal funding at this point. So it's while it seems promising, it has been a bit discouraging, as I mentioned. So we have just revamped the website on the Harbor District, or the webpage on the Harbor District website. If you just go to that main page and then go into the search bar and type in Surfers Beach, it'll bring up this. We've got a number of detailed reports here that go into a lot more detail. I'm kind of just scratching the surface here. We've got project description, preliminary design report from ESA. We've got the engineering plans up there, the CEQA document, eelgrass mitigation plan, all the sediment sampling and analysis report, which, by the way, confirmed that this is clean sand, and a biological assessment as well. Those are all up there on here. And then I'm putting my email address up here as well. If anybody has any questions at any time, I'm always available to answer. So that's my quick rundown. I'm sure there's probably questions here, but I didn't want to take up too much time of the meeting to focus on this project. So,
Thanks so much,
you.
Brad. That was a really good presentation.
Thank you.
Commissioners, would you like to discuss this item or make a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion, but I do have a question. Oh, I don't know if Tom had his hands up. It's mainly, and maybe this is a question for Jim with regard to the Half Moon Bay permitting process. So it sounds like the city manager is leaving. And so I just, where are we in line in all of this? I mean, this has been years, a few years now. And it's not you, Brian.
We've been doing very good with them most recently. So I'll let Brad go into the details of that.
Thank you. I can address that. So yeah, the city of Half Moon Bay is on board with this project as well as, I guess, a beneficiary and a partner, not as somebody who's going to implement or fund it. But the permit that we get from the Coastal Commission, let me start off by saying City of Half Moon Bay owns the beach where Surfers Beach is on. They own that land parcel, and that's why they're involved. County of San Mateo owns the bluff above it, and that's why they're involved. So the Coastal Commission permit is going to be done in such a way, it's called a consolidated coastal development permit, where all three parties, the Harbor District, City of Half Moon Bay, and the county all agree to let the Coastal Commission take the lead in issuing the permit. And, that was something that delayed the project a little bit, getting everybody on board just because of, typical government process and everything. But about 2 weeks ago, something like that, we presented the project to the city council in order to get their approval to submit this form and this letter that the Coastal Commission needs to be able to start processing the permit application. And they did approve it. So we are in good shape in that sense. That's a long answer, I guess, but.
Thank you.
Great. And I think I saw another hand raised. Commissioner Matoush. Sometimes it's hard to see that little yellow hand if you have something sort of tan in the background.
I was extremely happy to hear about the pumping over the seawall. That was going to be one of my questions because I know Bill Doris had spoken positively of it far earlier this year. I was glad to hear about the sand being rated clean already because one of my questions was I hope we don't have to store it landside again. One thing puzzling on that November 19 eelgrass picture that showed the eelgrass to the east, it almost looks like that's where the beach is high and dry. So I don't know if that's a little out of proportion or what, but I was surprised about that. Also, that west area that you mentioned, there's a different species of clam out there. So I know that because of the gravel bottom, there's some clamming that does go on occasionally out there. I don't know if you've considered getting eelgrass from Bodega. My God, that harbor is full of it. Having spent 5 or 7 years in that harbor, going to and fro, if you needed eelgrass, I'm sure you could get some up there. One question I had was, what is the containment berm made of? That was puzzling.
Okay.
If the city owns the beach, where's their financial contribution to this whole thing?
Well, I can answer the first question. I can't answer the second one. That's the question for Half Moon Bay, I suppose. That's a good question. The containment berm, and I didn't do a good job explaining this before. So before the pumping actually starts of the slurry, they get down there with some kind of small, maybe a bobcat or a small scraper, and take some of the existing sand and kind of push it out and shape that berm, and then fill in the area behind it.
Interesting. Great.
Yeah. Maybe once you get to the more eroded portions, they may need to use some hydraulically pumped sand to build it out during a low tide. But initially, it will be done with the existing sand.
Right.
Commissioner Matoush, just a point that the upper picture that's on your screen where the water goes all the way to the riprap, Half Moon Bay does not own that beach. The Harbor District is responsible for the water above that area, and Half Moon Bay owns the beach above the mean high tide. And as you can see, it's well below that. When we build a beach out there and it's above the mean high tide, then they'll own the beach. So we're actually creating a beach that they will own.
Okay.
The benefit to the district is the disposal of sand or the dredge, the clean sand on Surfers Beach saves the district a substantial amount of money from dumping it out at sea by barge. So we do get a significant benefit back. So it's our project in essence, and Half Moon Bay is working with us to benefit themselves, but really it's a benefit to the Harbor District and to the taxpayers in saving a lot of money, talking millions, in dredge disposal.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Commissioner Lorenas, you've got your hand up. You're muted.
Nice presentation, Brad. It's good to see you again.
Thank you. Good.
One point with the eelgrass mitigation, and I don't think it's a minor one, is that if doing it now at this time, we'll save a lot of money, because if we don't dredge and allow the sand to build up, we're going to get more and more eelgrass, and the cost of mitigation is going to be even higher. So I was happy to see that you guys are looking into the future on this, because it would only cost us more. And the real winner in terms of agencies in this moving the sand to the other side is Caltrans. And so, in my opinion, they should throw in some money. I don't know if they have or not, but that, putting the sand exactly where you're putting it, at least for a while, is going to protect that road quite a bit. It'll save them a bunch of money. So I'm happy to see it's progressing, and let us know if there's anything we can do as commissioners with the grant writing. I know that there are a lot of people with their hands out.
Thank you.
Commissioner Zemke.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to add my congratulations here. They're very good presentation. I learned a lot. The only question I have is in the eelgrass mitigation plan by the west breakwater, there's going to be some cutting and filling of material to create the right depth for the eelgrass. And the existing bathymetry there is a result of the natural forces. Do we know whether the fill material is going to stay where we put it, or that where we reduce the sediment, that it won't fill back in again?
The engineers have looked into that, and I guess the answer is you never know for certain, but it seems to be. I wouldn't say it's the natural. It's unnatural because of the way that the outer breakwater kind of collects it there, but it's not at the same degree as it happens over on the east breakwater. So it doesn't seem like it's going to cause that many problems with the eelgrass mitigation project. Over time, probably it might fill in, but the idea is that you now have a space where in the future, let's say we have to do dredging of the boat launch ramps, 10 years from now, you could take that material and then use it after testing it and everything to expand it further out towards the middle of the harbor, right? So it gives you a place where you could reuse beneficially that sediment, but also could allow that further migration to the, inside of the harbor.
Yeah. Okay, great presentation. Thanks for the information.
Thank you.
Great.
Commissioner President Ryrie?
Yeah.
Just to address Commissioner Lorena's copy or comment on Caltrans, I have reached out and I'm trying to arrange a meeting with them and the Army Corps to sit down and rediscuss this project and the benefits that they get from it, and seeking additional funding from them.
That's great, Jim. And I know you'll keep us posted on those discussions. Thank you. Commissioner Chan-Crawley, I think you had a motion for me at one point.
Yes.
Oh, and we have, go ahead, make your motion. I see we have a member of the public waiting as well.
Okay. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
So, we've received the report, and so I'll move to approve an agreement for continued project management, environmental review, permitting, and bid process support to complete the planning phase of the project in preparation for construction planned for 2023, not to exceed $57,000.
And do we have a second?
Second.
I'll second that.
I think Commissioner Mateusz had it first, and I just I want to make clear that amount is just the project management planning phase. Okay, and before we do roll call, Ryan Overfelt, you have a public comment.
I just wanted to say I'm so happy to hear that this looks like it's going to go through. The community of El Granada and Miramar has been asking for beach nourishment since March of 1970. I've been working on it since I was a freshman at Half Moon Bay High School in 1980, like 586, I can't even remember. And I just am so excited to hear that we're finally all on the same page. I know there's a commissioner sitting there that wanted to move the highway into El Granada was part of his proposed plan, which is just absolutely a joke and terrible. So thank you, Virginia, Nancy, and Tom, for all your hard work. You guys are awesome. And Brad, thank you, Brad.
All right, Melanie, roll call, please.
They're all, oh my God.
Oh, hold on a second. There we go. Commissioner Lorenz?
Aye.
President Ryrie?
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke?
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Commissioner Changlali?
Aye.
The motion carries. And we will now look at before we get to authorizing public meetings, which is item number 10, we will look at the pulled items from our consent calendar, which I have down as items number 2 and number 6. So starting with number 2, Commissioner Lorenz, did you pull that one?
I did because I was not at that meeting, so I can't vote for the minutes.
Oh, okay. Do you, Tricia, does he need to pull that or does he just need to abstain from the vote of that item?
I think in the future, he could just say that he's not voting on that item, but it was pulled. And so you should take a vote at this point.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I'll move to approve the minutes, but I can understand why Commissioner Lorenz approved it because he wanted to vote on the other items, I think. I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but I will move to approve the item 2 from the consent calendar, which is the minutes from, I think, May 25th, 2022. Is that correct? Hold on.
I think it was June 15th.
I'm sorry, June 15th, yeah.
Great. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Great. Melanie, roll call, please.
President Ryrie?
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke?
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Commissioner Changlali?
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz?
Abstain.
Great. The motion carries, and we'll now look at the pulled item number 6 from the consent calendar. And was that yours, Commissioner Matoush?
Yes. I was curious about what progress had been made. We talked about using local contractors. I met with folks over the weekend, and there's apparently word in the community is that the people that are involved in this seem to be not using anybody that's local that I've heard of. So I'd like to get some follow-up from the people about how they're going to involve our local community rather than bringing in people from far away.
Jim, can you talk with us about what our opportunities are for, I do remember those discussions. What kind of constraints can we put on the organizers, if any?
I think we can encourage them, and that's about it. The organizer is online and does have his hand raised if we want to speak directly with him.
Great. Chris Cavalier, I see your hand raised.
Also, Mike is with the organization as well. Should I let him in as well, President Ryrie?
Well, does he have his hand up?
Oh, okay. They both have their hands up.
All right.
Do you want me to let them one at a time?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. This is Chris Cuvelier. Brad, great presentation. Love the plan on dredging the harbor as a side note. Commissioner Matoush, we have made great progress. I had COVID about 5 weeks ago, and I'm kind of just coming up for air now. But we have a lot of things happening with the Mavericks Festival. So the festival on October 1st really is a way for us to kick off the big wave season here at Mavericks. We have a education and community zone with a lot of the local entities in there, including a big demonstration by the Coast Guard. We have the sheriff involved, the fire department, Sea Hugger, and a list of 5 or 6 other environmental education and community groups. As an overview, we have 3 bands providing live music. We have 3 local food vendors. We do have 1 outside food vendor, which is a restaurant chain, Pacific Catch, that has been very supportive with Mavericks and sponsoring some of the athletes. And they will be buying fish from the local Half Moon Bay Fishing Association, working through Lisa. And then we have a lot of local sponsors, as well as some bigger sponsors that are providing sponsorship dollars for the event. So the event is free. All of the net proceeds go towards prize money for the Mavericks Awards, and will be split with Sea Hugger, who's our environmental partner and helps keep our oceans clean. So Commissioner Matush, if there's anything more specific, we'd be happy to answer that right now and see if there's any other concerns.
All right, that presentation differed a little bit from what I heard over the weekend. So I would like to see that we're kept up to date on the local businesses in the area.
Yes, absolutely. It was brought to my attention yesterday that there was a local vendor in regards to some audio and video equipment was upset because we did not use them at the Mavericks Awards party in May. And I think it was more how that was handled. And there was something that they had pulled some things together, and we wound up going in a different direction, which with a much bigger screen and sound system. And so what we're doing for the festival is we have a 24 by 24 foot stage. And we are bringing in a company called Digital Dynamite that can do everything turnkey, from providing the stage, making sure the sound is top quality, and making sure that all of the logistics of the sound is done properly. So I will be reaching out to that vendor, Tom, if that's who you spoke to. And I did just hear about that yesterday, that there was a potential issue there, and we'll make that right. But everything, the whole mission, for Jeff and I, for the Mavericks Awards and the Mavericks Festival is really to celebrate community. So our whole mission is really to celebrate Mavericks and support the brave men and women who dare surf it. And our values are all about respect, inclusion, equality, safety, and environmental stewardship. And so I think being able to do this down at the harbor, where safety and environmental stewardship is a big part of that, and know that we are doing this as a community celebration. Our first option is going to be always go community first. And if we need something because they have something that might fit better from a technology standpoint or a logistics standpoint, we'll do that, which is in the case of this stage and the sound. But know that everything we would do would be community first.
All right, we'll look forward to some follow-up on that.
Sure, I'm happy to. I was meeting with Brian, who I know is on the phone here yesterday, and I promised him a big update as well. So I'm happy to do a write-up next week once we sign the final bands and share all the things we're doing that includes all of the community involvement.
Nancy?
Commissioner Chang Crawley?
So, Chris, thanks for that update. I just was looking at the staff report that was in our packet last June, and there is a bullet that talks about various vendor partners, including surf companies and local vendors, are being engaged to participate in the Mavericks Festival. Food, drinks, and souvenirs, including photographs and surf gear, will be sold by the vendors. So I'm wondering, Do you by any chance have a list of the, I mean, you don't have to, I don't know, I mean, the local vendors that you've reached out to and who've committed? And I mean, I'm just curious because I know that that was part of the reason that we moved forward with issuing the permit, which was supposed to be given for the festival for the October 30th, 2021. And so now we're being asked to move this out to October of the 1st of 2022. And so I don't know if you've had a chance to talk to the general manager about local vendors or give an update on what's happening. I mean,
Yeah, I can do that now, Virginia. Mike has been working very closely with Chris Tibby and can sure add some extra context there. We've been in touch with a lot of the local companies. The people that have committed so far are Blue Ocean Brewery, which is here in Princeton, Half Moon Bay Brewery, the Maverick Surf Company, Sam's, which is one of the local food companies, Spangler's, which will likely be partnering with the Half Moon Bay Surf Team, and Goldworks. We still have some other local vendors that we're talking to. We have 16 booths, and I would expect out of those 16 booths that 10 to 12 of them would be local. And then we'll have a total of 4 food vendors. 3 of those will be local. As I mentioned, the fourth one would be Pacific Catch, who is buying fish locally. And then in the education zone, we have 10 booths. And Mike, add to the people that have committed so far, but I know we've talked to at least 10 to 12 vendors there. And who's committed so far in the education zone is the Coast Guard, the fire department, the sheriff, the Marine Mammal Center, Sea Hugger, the Coastside Fishing Club, and the Resource Conservation District. Mike, if there's others beyond that have committed, maybe please raise your hand and add any additional color.
Thanks, Chris.
You're on mute, Mike.
Now I'm unmuted. Sorry about that. Yes, in addition to that list, Coastside CERT will also be a part of the education zone. So we've got a pretty substantial list of local and community groups that are going to be part of this.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, Jim, I mean, I don't want to delay, but at the same time, do we have a deadline when, I mean, because right now we're asking that the permit be changed to October 1st, right? So if when is the deadline that we have to do this by so that there's not going to be a squeeze on, labor or logistics?
That's more of a question for Chris. We can issue the permit up to the day before, but he would definitely need it much earlier than that to get insurance and line up labor and contracts.
Chris, what is your timeline here?
Really immediately, we're making commitments to, as Jim mentioned, with everything from insurance to volunteers with different organizations. We're partnering with the local high school and having people there, earn off community hours through being a part of the event. We've signed contracts for stage and we're signing on bands. So there's money that's been spent towards this, and it's quite the event. Mike has been working closely with the Coast Guard and Chris Tibby, so they're looking to do a water rescue in the harbor at 10 a.m. And then roll everybody over to the festival at 11. So, as soon as possible is helpful. So, I think if the information is changing the date from when the original date was when it was approved to October 1st, I'm hoping that can be done today so we can continue to make progress and get everything dialed in to have a fantastic event.
Okay. I just want to make sure that like our commercial fishing industry is included in this whole thing as well. I know that Pacific Catch, they're a great restaurant and everything, and I'm glad that they're one of the sponsors, but I just am hoping that those connections can be made so that we are able to support our local economy that drives the harbor district.
Yeah, 100%.
Helps our tenants.
Yeah.
And so where are you with the Half Moon Bay Seafood Marketing Association, for example?
I've been in communication with Lisa over there consistently. All of the details were finalized last week with the CMO of Pacific Catch, who I know quite well. What they're going to be selling is 2 items. They'll be selling fish tacos and ceviche, both made with local rock cod. And so the CMO is introducing me to the culinary people, and then a call will be set up with Lisa. So there's 2 things. Lisa donated some fish for the Mavericks Awards party, which was fantastic. And so my commitment to Lisa was not only would Pacific Catch buy fish from the association, which they've already agreed to do, and we've already talked about menu and we've talked about the type of fish. My goal is, and I've talked to Lisa extensively about, Lisa being able to pitch Pacific Catch and hopefully having the local fish be served at Pacific Catch where it's sustainable and traceable. So I've been in communication, with Lisa via text. As mentioned, I was out with COVID. I know Lisa's father is sick and she's been commuting there, but we're in contact on that, and that will happen. All of that is in process as we speak.
But Legacy is not the only fishing business here. And so, and rock cod is, from what I've seen, we've had a lot of salmon. And so I'm just wondering if we're working with other fishing businesses as well.
Yeah, I'm really talking to Lisa as kind of a member of the association. We've also offered a booth in the educational area there. And so trying to figure out if that winds up being a booth that is talking about the overall fishing association legacy, or if that's a fish and fleet booth. So that's an ongoing discussion. So we're happy to buy from multiple vendors there. I'm just talking to Lisa as head of that association to lock that down. So that conversation, I think, with Pacific Catch will be happening probably in the next week. And then those details can be figured out there, Virginia, of who the actual purchase is happening from Pacific Catch. My hope would be it would be one vendor, so they're not trying to set up multiple vendors, but I need to get some more information on Lisa how to best handle that.
Okay. Thanks. I don't know if anyone else has questions, but I know that was always my concern, is just to make sure. You've got, obviously Maverick Surf Shop you're working with, that's Jeff's shop and that's a tenant. But what about some of our restaurants too?
Yeah, Jeff spoke with Albert yesterday, and Albert's very excited and very supportive of it. We need to talk to the folks at the bait shop. And so far, everybody we've talked to down there has been very supportive of the festival. Should be great weather, should bring a lot of people down there. The event is free. And so I think people will be excited that it's bringing more people down to the business. Some of the other things that we're discussing in terms of details are making sure that, the back area delivery trucks can get in there. And so, we'll be making sure that we're talking to them about those details, as we don't want to impact their business. We just want this to be a positive thing for their business.
So the situation for me, Chris, is with regard to the local piece of this. It sounds like you have addressed a lot of the issues, but at the same time, those who have traditionally been involved with Mavericks, besides Jeff, there was a whole community, like with Cassandra and Brian and all these others. Where are you? And I think in order for us to have a successful community-oriented, community-minded event, and even with Shell, I'm sure, because Sea Hugger is the nonprofit that you're working with, where are they in this process? I think that Mavericks is so important to our community that it needs to involve as many of the community members who have been involved traditionally as well. So I'm just curious where that is besides Jeff.
Yeah, no, great point. So, I mean, look, we look at this as one of the premier community events, right? Having it in the harbor, where you can, look out and see the white ball. You've got the surf shop right there is important. Obviously, Jeff's very involved. I just talked to Cassandra this morning. She's thrilled. The Maverick Surf Company is actually likely one of the sponsors. And will participate at that level. We have obviously Sea Hugger that is involved in that. We'll be doing a reach out for all the surfers and giving them VIP packages where they have free access to food and drinks. And then we are also talking with people even outside of Half Moon Bay specifically, but are also part of the greater Mavericks community. So, for example, talking with Tyler Fox who owns Santa Cruz Waves, who runs events in Santa Cruz. They focus on community in Santa Cruz and making sure that the greater Santa Cruz community is also involved and able to come up with to the festival. One of the bands that we are likely having headline are called the Expendables. They're out of Santa Cruz, and they'll bring a lot of people to attend. So, getting the word out where we have as many local people involved, meaning the local community in Half Moon Bay, is priority number one. And then priority number two is getting into some of these other communities that support and participate in Mavericks, where we have people like Peter Mel and John Mel, who are massive, players with Mavericks. You have people like Alice Lieber that are one of the biggest unbecoming young guns at Mavericks, and are forming great relationships with people like Luke Padua and the people that come from El Granada or Half Moon Bay. So I think it's obviously bringing in community first within Half Moon Bay specifically, and then it is bringing in these other adjacent communities as they're also, part of the bigger Mavericks community.
Have you talked to Peter Mel about his participation?
Not yet. We wanted to get all the things locked down with the bands and do formal announcements. But that's something that Jeff and I will also be. That's also something that Jeff and I will be, handling personally within the surf community.
Okay. I mean, I don't want to hog up the time, so if anyone else has any questions, thanks, Chris.
Yep.
Any other commissioner comments, or do I have a motion to move this date? So the recommended motion is to change the date of a previously approved commercial activity report from October 30th, 2021 to October 1st, 2022. Nothing?
I will so move.
So moved. Commissioner Zemke, great, thank you.
Well, I have go on. I just had another quick question.
No second?
Yeah, I don't mind seconding it so that I can ask a question.
Go right ahead.
So Chris, just a quick question regarding, is there, I just want to make sure that you're gonna, make good on your word to talk to the people that you haven't had a chance to talk to yet. I'm sure you will, but I just think that this means so much to the local community. I mean, the last time we had a surf contest was out on 2016. So I don't know, and we've had so many complications. I almost would rather see if we can get some of these other local things lined up and then maybe decide this later. But I understand the need for contracts to be signed and everything. So I don't know. I'm just not totally
Virginia
there yet, right? But I'm trying to be very mindful of the timing of things for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're looking to do is get the date approved. And your original question there, Virginia, yes, you have my absolute word. As you know, I'm a very active, member in the community. on a lot of different fronts. And yes, I will be handling all of those things personally.
I mean, would it matter if we got some of that first and some assurances that our community is really more involved before we, I mean, like, could we put this out for another month and then you come back and give us an updated report on what more community involvement you've got? I just don't want to hear a lot of the discord right now, because I know that this event is so important to the community. That's really my concern.
You know, just chiming in here, we do have the opportunity to go ahead and change the date of this permit. And if the event doesn't perform to the board's satisfaction in terms of bringing in local businesses, then, you know, we'll have an opportunity to look at their potential permits in the future.
Okay. And so how would that work, Jim? Would this be put on the agenda in August again?
The Commissioner Chin-Crawley, the board can ask and set as an agenda item for Chris to come back to the board and report out on the involvement of local community and what steps he took.
Chris, would you be okay with that? Because I mean, there is this motion that Commissioner Zimke made, but I mean, I would ask him to amend the motion, Bill, to include that, you know, we put this item on the August agenda and have a report from the organizers.
Yeah, Virginia, I'm a little torn just because we're down the road with commitments that are there. I'm happy to put together a list. I mean, if we wait another month, we're behind the 8 ball in a lot of things, and it's going to impact execution.
So, Chris, let me make it very clear. The motion would be to move forward with the stipulation that you would bring back a report in August, assuming Commissioner Zimke amends his motion, so that you don't have all of these commitments to be able to, you can fulfill, well, move forward with some of the contracts that you're trying to I guess, finish, right? But we would want to report in August.
If as long as it's moving forward, I'm happy to provide a report and share all of the local community involvement. No problem.
Okay, so Bill, I would ask, would you mind if amending your motion to have this come back to the board in the form of a staff or an agenda item in August?
Okay, just so I understand, I guess what we're approving here is we're still authorizing the general manager to enter into the special event permit.
Yes.
With the stipulation that there will be a follow-up report given to the commission at our next board meeting.
Yes, and in order to make that happen, that has to be on the August agenda, and so that's why I'm asking you to amend your motion to include this item on the August agenda, so that we can properly notice that item, so that a report can be made at that time.
Right. Okay. I will amend my motion to authorize the general manager to issue a special event permit to Mavericks Festival LLC in coordination with Sea Huggers on October 1st, 2022, with the condition that the Mavericks
organizers.
What?
The organizers?
The organizers will come back with a status update at the August 15th Harbor District meeting.
With regard to local vendors.
With regard to local vending.
And I'll second that.
Great. Melanie, roll call, please.
Well, do we have any other public comment, Nancy?
I'm assuming, Chris, that's just an artifact that your hand is still up?
Yes, it is. And yep, that all sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you.
Melanie, roll call, please.
Commissioner Zemke?
Aye.
Commissioner Mateusz?
Aye.
Commissioner Chin-Crawley?
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Yes.
President Reiering.
Aye. The motion carries. And we will move on to item number 10, authorize public meetings to be held via teleconferencing pursuant to Government Code Section 54953E. Do I have
I'll
a motion?
move to approve.
Great. Second?
I will second that.
Thank you. I don't see any comments. Melanie, roll call, please.
Commissioner Mateusz,
Aye.
Commissioner Giancarelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Yes.
President Reiering,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke.
Aye.
The motion carries. And we're going to now move into closed session. Does everybody have their links?
Through the chair, I have a question. I'm a little confused about the items pulled from the agenda. We had a member of the public that wanted to pull one item. I think it was number 5. We didn't get to that.
Yes, and that's why I asked our legal counsel, Tricia Ortiz, to speak to that. And what she said is that members of the public can comment on consent items, but they don't pull items.
I don't think that's correct. Members of the public are allowed to pull items from the consent agenda. That's been a long-standing rule. So I'm asking our counsel to please confirm that.
So President Reiering and Commissioner Lorenz, the agenda says that all items on consent are approved by one motion unless a commissioner requests at the beginning of the meeting that an item be withdrawn or transferred to discussion. And then the public's given an opportunity to speak. During that opportunity, they can provide comment on any item on the consent calendar. And they can also request that a member of the commission pull an item. That didn't happen, meaning that no member pulled item 5. No commissioner did, but the public was given an opportunity to speak on the consent calendar.
Okay, is that all clear?
No. It's clear, but I'm not sure that it's right.
All right, well, I'm voting for our general counsel on this one.
Okay.
All right, then we're going to be moving to closed session. Does everybody have their link?
Were we sent individual links? I don't know if I got that. Melanie, were we sent individual links?
Yes, you were sent it separately. Okay. I can do this. I can send it to you again right now.
I think it was yesterday at 3:09 p.m.
Okay, let me take a quick look.
And then Melanie, just to confirm the process, everybody will leave this meeting, will log into the other separate private link, and then following closed session, we'll come back to the public link.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and Commissioner Giancarelli, I just resent the link to everyone, to all the commissioners.
Thank you, Melanie.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to log off here and log on to the other.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you on the other side.
Thank you. I think we're just waiting for Commissioner Matoush to make it into, and yeah, that's it. There we go. All right. We have, the board has come out of closed session. We have nothing to report. We gave direction to our real property negotiators. And commissioner comments. Do any commissioners have public statements that they would like to make at this time? Don't see any hands raised. I don't see any members of the public who have their hands raised. Future agenda item ideas from anybody? Commissioner Matoush? You're muted.
I still get troubling comments about whether our tenants and our commercial activity permit people have the proper insurance. So one thing I'd like to see is a list of all of our tenants and commercial activity permit holders. And specifically, does each person have the insurance required by the district in full terms, not having partial insurance, not having kind of sort of insurance? Are we, per the terms of our commercial activity permits, is the commercial activity permit holder in possession of something that's going to sufficiently protect the harbor district?
I can have that report prepared for you, Commissioner Matoush. Do you want it placed on the record at the next board meeting or just emailed to you?
I think it should be the next board meeting, because if you're operating without insurance, we've got to figure out at the same meeting how we get people into compliance. And I mean, this is just not asking them, because everyone's got a copy of the commercial activity permit and some are choosing to ignore the terms.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have that report ready for you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Anything else, anybody? Have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second? I'll second it.
Outstanding.
Melanie, roll call.
Commissioner Lorenz?
Yes.
Commissioner Zemke?
Aye.
Commissioner Jane Crowley?
Aye.
Commissioner Ryan?
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you to staff.
Right.
Thank
See you
you.
in August.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.